Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday Satsang. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday Satsang. In this framework, one of the primary concepts or points out that what we as a seeker are really looking for is peace of mind in daily living. Is continuous and unbroken comfortableness with oneself, with the other, with life, and even with God as the creator of who I think I am and the life that is including all the events and circumstances, the pleasures and the pain that come in my share as this life goes on for me and peace of mind in each moment in daily living is not really something that can be pointed out or pointed in as, oh, there is peace of mind. So what I mean to say here is that peace of mind is not a presence of something which feels peaceful or comfortable. Peace of mind is an absence, a falling away, a non-arising of the opposite of peace of mind, which we can call suffering, which we can call an uncomfortableness with oneself, which can also be projected as an uncomfortableness with the other and an uncomfortableness with life. This uncomfortableness can also be labeled as, in its quality, as non-acceptance. So within the very fabric of our perception, our attitude towards ourself, the other, and the flow of life, the fabric of this way of perceiving, way of interpreting, way of experiencing all that arises within the content of life. The fabric itself is of non-acceptance, of not okayness. And that non-acceptance with oneself can show up as in the field of pleasure. So if, let's say, I am behaving a certain way or I'm feeling a certain way which feels pleasurable, so the uncomfortableness or the non-acceptance in there will very subtly be played as, let's say, a fear of the pleasure ending. There might be a nervousness or a fear of, oh, I hope this doesn't change. Oh, I hope that I don't screw this up. Oh, I hope I don't become arrogant. Not that not becoming arrogant is not a good thing, but that narrative in itself is layered behind or on top of the very pleasure that is being experienced as the not okayness. So the pleasure in itself is not enjoyed fully, is not experienced in its full potential. It is adulterated with this layer of non-acceptance or fear, which is another form of non-acceptance, or resistance, or maybe even pride, that look at me, I'm finally there. Nobody can beat me. So whatever the narrative that comes with the pleasure, if that narrative is made out of, or if its fabric is of non-acceptance or non-openness to the full potential of the pleasure that is arising, the falling away of this non-acceptance, even gradually, even to some degree, if not completely, would be what we mean when we say unbroken, or in this case, maybe not unbroken yet, but peace of mind. The absence of non-acceptance shows up as just a silence towards whatever arises. A silence in the sense it's an equanimity, it's a non-judgment, the element within ourselves that is always subtly gauging, oh, peace is arising, yay, I'm getting there. Oh, despair is arising. Shit, there is still something to do. It's still not done. So this performance tracker that arises from a place of assumption that it knows what kind of arising would mean whatever the goal is assumed to be. And this whole mechanism may be seen as coming from a place of non-acceptance. Non-acceptance in the sense that pleasure is appreciated and there's a clinging towards it, there's a grasping towards it, that it shouldn't ever end. It should remain permanent. And the pain is taken on as an attack, as something that shouldn't happen or shouldn't be allowed in the system. And that mechanism in itself, when listens to or is when comes in contact with these pointings, these concepts, assumes again naively peace of mind to be that pleasure, and suffering or the absence of peace of mind to be that pain that needs to be resisted, that needs to be worked towards to go and fix it or end it. So the pleasure, which is the peace of mind, can arise again. All the time, we miss the point, not by our doing, but this mechanism is so trained and so so solid in the assumption that what feels pleasurable needs to stay, and what feels painful cannot happen. And if it has happened, then something needs to be done to fix it, to end it, to resist it. And even if it doesn't leave, even if that pain remains, there is definitely no point in accepting it or letting it be. It would be a defeat, a failure to that mechanism if it were to not fight the painful arising, whether that's in the form of suffering and emotional painful arising, or it may be a circumstance or event or a conversation, anything out there as an event also, if it were to be registered as painful. Letting it go, letting it be, is just not something that this mechanism is prepared to do. It is not designed to relate with pleasure and pain without clinging and resisting to them. And according to this framework, what peace of mind refers to is not a pleasure. It's not a presence of a pleasurable feeling or experience. The experience may still include both pleasure and pain in the form of circumstance, in the form of events, in the form of our reactions and our thinking, our emotions, our bodies may feel strong or weak. The peace of mind that is pointed at as the pinnacle of what we as a seeker are really looking for is behind the mechanism. This mechanism itself is the suffering, is the non-acceptance, is the sense of lack that if it were to fall away, even momentarily, what peace of mind really is pointing to may reveal itself. So in our seeking journey, when we find ourselves thinking about, I would never get there, or, oh, wow, it feels like I've come so far, or, oh, if I'm not feeling love, I'm doomed. I'm not spiritual anymore because I'm not behaving or thinking or feeling in the way that this mechanism has assumed that we need to feel or think or speak or do. So if I'm not meditating anymore 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, I'm not spiritual anymore. I'll never get there. I've lost the path. And this narrative in itself, this belief in itself that something needs to be done in order to get there, here, there would mean peace of mind, unbroken and continuous peace of mind in daily living, is already the misunderstanding. It's already the very suffering that is very sneakily acting as the seeker, and yet is the very veil to what is already here. Is it possible to question the one that feels impure and that believes that until there is impurities, whatever that even means, anything opposite of love or detachment might be considered as an impurity? So until I am not a perfect human being, always full of compassion and love, not having any useless thoughts, in control of my thoughts, until that happens, it hasn't happened. And in this very attitude, it is so obvious that this very attitude, this very seeking mechanism, seemingly is seeking the unconditional, the one that doesn't come with conditions. And yet, this very attitude itself, that if this doesn't happen, means I'm not there already, or means I'm not there yet. This already is the condition. So for the conditioned to look for the unconditional, it's a catch-22. It won't ever happen. It cannot happen unless the conditioned itself falls away. The conditioned can never find the unconditional while maintaining its own identity as the conditioned. So what I'm really looking for as a seeker, when it said peace of mind in daily living, could also translate as what I'm really looking for is for this looking to fall away, for this seeking to fall away, to dissolve, to not arise. And it feels counterproductive, counterintuitive to the seeker, that how will I ever find something when I even stop looking for it? When I'm not working towards a goal, how will that goal ever be achieved? And in life, when we are working towards, let's say, opening a business or getting a job, clearing or acing an exam, even maybe finding a new relationship, efforts are required. Sometimes a lot of efforts, and sometimes minimum efforts, and the results are delivered based on our destiny, based on the flow of life, however it is designed for there to be pleasure or pain. And there is still no guarantee that when and if the goal is achieved, the exam is cleared with distinction, or the job, I've gotten the job with a better package, a better working hour situation, and better position. And yet there is no guarantee that it'll still be pleasurable, because what comes with it may not feel pleasurable. In the search for peace of mind, for continuous and unbroken okayness, the search and the one that is searching fall away. So when we say the search is over, it doesn't mean that the one that was searching has found what they were searching for, but the one that was searching, including the search itself, they're actually not two. The seeking mechanism is the seeker. So it is in the absence of the seeking and the seeker that the search is over. And this is not a good news for the seeker themselves, because me as a seeker would just bang my head at the wall and say, then what do I do with this? How do I dissolve myself? How do I make myself fall away? And that is where one of another primary concepts of this framework come into play. As Buddha mentioned, that events happen, deeds are done, and then Ramesh, Roger's teacher, added on their consequences happen, and there is no doer thereof. So life is a happening. I am a happening. The other is a happening. The flow of life is a happening, exactly as it is designed to be. And there is no doer. So when the seeker is frustrated and wondering that, oh, I need to do something to fix this. Now, whether that is in the spiritual seeking of seeking oneself or seeking peace of mind, or it could be a seeking that's projected outward towards an object in the form of money or relationships or love or approval, in any kind of seeking. The seeking itself was put in place, is put in place by life itself. I'm not the doer of this seeking and longing and yearning. And life itself takes the seeking away, whether in the form of the object of seeking being achieved or being revealed in life or coming into our lives. And the seeking is over for that particular object. But sadly, if it is a search projected outward, when that object of seeking is delivered, either we enjoy it for a moment and then that seeking is on to the next one. It's like, what's next? And there may never be an end to it. I've gotten what I thought I wanted. Let's say I wanted $10,000. I've gotten them. And now I want $100,000. And once I've gotten them, and now I want $1 million. Or if we are lucky enough, if it is included in the destiny of our life to realize, for it to dawn upon us that I get what I think I'm searching for, but the sense of lack, which I thought will be fulfilled by achieving what I just got, will disappear. I will be fulfilled. And yet I'm not. And maybe in life we get enough pleasures, enough goals are achieved to realize that, oh, it's not as juicy as I thought it's going to be, because I thought it'll fulfill the sense of void, the sense of lack that I feel undeniably. And that might very well be the very moment of grace where the search, which is projected outward, may turn inward. And while the search turns inward, the mechanism doesn't change at all. So outwardly, it was about $10,000 and then $100,000 and then $1 million and then on and on and on. And then inwardly, that same mechanism takes as, well, first it's about meditating for say 2 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 1 hour, then 2 hours, and then 5 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. And that sense of lack may still not be fulfilled, may still very well be there. And then I may cover it up by a sense of pride in claiming that I am a meditator. That's no different than I am a millionaire. So what I'm really looking for is not to be able to meditate undisturbingly for 12 hours a day or 16 hours a day, nonstop. And even when in the inward journey, it dawns upon us that actually what I'm really looking for is for this sense of incompleteness to not be there anymore, whether I meditate or not, whether I chant or not, whether I'm a good person or not. And if it really is destined to dawn upon us in an authentic way, in an experiential way, there might be a space that opens up to just experience this lack and not to run away from it in a way where we are just trying to get something, meditation, chanting, spiritual gifts, spiritual states, oneness states, to not have to look at the sense of lack. To fill up the void with all these gifts and achievements and goals. Until we can really be as this sense of lack. And in this void, in this incompleteness, the seeker cannot remain. And as the seeker dissolves, even momentarily, even just as a trailer, there's nothing lacking anymore. And what remains is completeness itself, is emptiness. This emptiness is not dead. It doesn't have a form. No color, no shape, no gender. There is nothing but this. There is no other to this. This is all there is. The very sense of me being this human being, me being this person, is an arising, is a seeming and apparent shape that is playing within this emptiness that is all there is. If there is no other here, if there is nothing and no one else but just this, then who am I? What must I be in this not two-ness, in this oneness? I must be this. As this itself, the self, that is what I am. Can this person be rejected? Can Gurleen, with all her characteristics and flaws and suffering and pain, is there any capacity here in this formless emptiness to reject any of it? If there is, if there is a scope of resistance or rejection, what is that taking shape within? And who am I in relation to that resistance or rejection? What must I be that is relating to or believing in or is beyond the personal self and this resistance or rejection of that personal self, as if it's not good enough? In this formless emptiness that that encompasses this whole dance, is there any idea of good enough or not good enough here? Does this really need anything to be good enough or not good enough? To be the completeness that it is? Is there any sense of time here? Is there a past to this? Because an existence of past to this formlessness would mean that it began at some point. So is it possible to find where it began or when it began? Is there a sense of future here? And a future would mean that this will end at some point or somewhere. Can this end? This is constant. This is not moving from a past to the future through the present. It is not moving from one place to another. It is not distance. Is it possible to suffer here? Is it possible to seek anything? As this presence, this unconditional presence, unveils itself to itself as what I really am, I, as this person, can really feel connected experientially to its own source. And as this connection to my own source has happened, it is obvious beyond concepts, beyond even an intellectual understanding, that life goes on as destined, and I am not the doer of anything that happens through me, anything that happens in life. This me and the other are an arising in the consciousness, in the source that I really am. This connection, this experiential connection with my own self may lead to a surrender, where pleasure is enjoyed, pain is endured, and there is no need for clinging and resistance anymore. Because what I, as Gurleen, was really looking for is the unbroken connection to myself. And it was never to be found in the flow of life. It was never to be found in pleasure and pain. And as the pleasure can be treated as pleasure and pain can be treated as pain without any wanting more or resisting more or wanting less and resisting less, without any searching or not searching. Peace of mind prevails. Ordinarily, nothing mystical here. Very, very ordinary, where there is this absence as this person of who I am and what God, what the source has designed me as. And there is an absence of non-acceptance towards the other. Everybody else that I find myself to be in a relationship with, whether it's a human being or an animal or another object, there is no element of non-acceptance towards what they are designed to be, who they are designed to be by life, what they are destined to deliver to us, whether that's pleasure or pain. And same for the flow of life. Life may contain a lot of pain or maybe a lot of pleasure. There might be a sense of gratitude towards the pleasure, knowing that it's not my doing that the pleasure is experienced. It's just the sense, might be the sense of gratitude towards destiny, that life is pleasurable. And to the pain, when the pain arises, there might be a gratitude that I'm grateful that it's not more than what it is, because it could have been more than what it is. Or there might be a gratitude for the strength that we may feel, or the resources that we may have to deal with that pain. And to the very least, this connection with one's own sense of being, this formless self that I really am, the connection to this that I am. The pain remains painful, but it's not an attack on me, the person, anymore. So it can be allowed, including the helplessness that I may feel as a person, or the cry for help that may arise as a person if the pain is too unbearable, whether that's emotional or physical pain. So all of that is gracefully, unconditionally playing out. Let's open up the space for conversation. If any of you have any questions or comments, anything to report, express, feel free to raise your electronic hand on Zoom here, and then I can unmute you. Franco.
Hi, Gulin.
Hello, Ranko. How are you?
I'm nice. And you?
Very well, very well. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, great satsang again. So, my sharing or question is, sometimes we feel that this piece is very tangible, even like experience. But maybe if we can see it more clearly, it's just maybe a hole in experience. So there is a happening and there is a hole. So we see it like, this hole is also kind of experience. It's actually, it's not, it's the basis of experience. And maybe we can have an insight that this piece is basis, actually, basis of our life, basis of existence. Everything is happening in that piece. And then we may conclude that this piece is necessary somehow. We have to all the time have this very clear sense of peace, like experience. But actually, that is not what is happening in our life. This experience of peace may happen, and the other moment it won't be happening. And we think that if that is not happening all the time, we become attached to that experience of the peace. So it becomes a problem in a way. But like you said, the peace of mind is just not arising of disturbance, not arising of suffering. So for many seekers, that is not usually very clear. And if you maybe can elaborate a little bit about that, how we can distinguish this experience of peace and non-arising of suffering. What is the relationship between those two?
Thank you for your question, Ranko. That's a beautiful question. I'm so happy that you brought this up. The experience of peace and peace of mind in daily living, are they the same? Are they talking about different things? And yes, they are very different. This experiential peace that is felt to the very core of our being when the formless aspect of ourself, which we can call the true self, our true self, when that opens up to itself, it's almost like it's like a flower with its fragrance. So that formless self smells like peace. That's what its fragrance is. It feels like, and I would put that peace more in the category of bliss. So when we say Satchit Ananda, that Ananda is this experiential peace, this overwhelming, all-penetrating sense of peace, which can be called as unconditional love, that is experienced choicelessly as the very fragrance of what we really are. And yes, as this is experienced, it is misunderstood that this experience of peace or bliss or ananda is what needs to be experienced in continuous and unbroken basis for all our life in each moment. And that is only when we can say enlightenment or self-realization or end of suffering has happened. And that is a misunderstanding, because in the timeless moment when the formless self is experienced, it is obvious without even putting any words to it. It is just obvious that this is always here. This is all there is. And within this, everything else plays, including the arising of the separate me and the conditioned psychological suffering mechanism, the seeking mechanism. All of that arises and plays within it. And there might be a period in our seeking where there is a possibility of experiencing me as the seeker or person and I as this formless true self. They may exist simultaneously, where the personal play is playing out within what I know myself as now, really. So it even gets more concrete as a belief very subtly. It doesn't even happen consciously, but it is kind of inevitable for that belief to be put in place without be seen as a belief, that this vantage point, this witnessing position that automatically is at peace and is untouched by all the suffering shenanigan that is playing out as an arising within this, within what I am, is how life is to be experienced now. So within this ananda, the play of duality is going on. And that is how it might be experienced for a while, until one day, as you pointed out, it may not be the case anymore. One day I wake up and it's like, uh-oh, there is no witnessing going on. I am feeling stuck as this person with this flow of life, with all my flaws and limitations, and then that witnessing position or the formless awareness vantage point becomes the object of the ultimate pleasure, which, so now this fragrance of myself, my true self, is now the ultimate pleasure that I am working towards, assuming that my completeness, my happiness is to be found in pleasure, which is that ananda that was experienced or was gifted by life for a moment or for a day, for a year, whatever it may be. And not realizing that this clinging to pleasure, which is this experiential, active, present peace, this clinging in itself is the suffering, is the obstruction to that peace. But if the suffering were to fall away, if that narrative were to fall away in our daily living, if there were no suffering, if there were no clinging, who cares if there's an active peace or not? Who cares whether I feel good about myself or not when there is no sense of lack anymore? When the idea of, oh, I'm good enough, or oh, I'm not good enough, when that layer is not there anymore in the system, who cares whether I achieve something or I don't? So peace of mind in daily living in this framework is pointing to a very plain absence of non-arising of the 5 forms of suffering in our daily living experience: the absence of guilt and shame, the absence of blame and hatred, resentment, jealousy, any other forms thereof, the absence of pride and arrogance, absence of worry and anxiety towards an idea of future, because the very belief that the life needs to be a certain way for me to be happy, for me to be complete, is not there anymore. So then who cares what happens in the future in the existential sense? And it's an absence or non-arising of expectation and attachment to outcome. So when life doesn't go my way, it's not taken as an attack on who I am. It is seen as just pain destined to be delivered as per my destiny. So peace of mind in daily living, as the absence of suffering, is really just a plain absence of feeling or experiencing or relating to myself, to the flow of life from a place of lack, or from a place of incompleteness, or from a place of, as we said, shame, blame, pride, worry, expectation, and attachment to outcome. And the active, the peace that is experienced in the oneness experience with self, where there is no other and no me, but just what is, the peace that comes with it is a beautiful antidote to detach our attachment to the flow of life. However, if there's a clinging to it, we need to see, or hopefully if destined, there might be a seeing that it's a clinging to pleasure, and this presence of peace is just pleasure. And what really is longed for, even in that experience of our own self, the true self, was the absence of uncomfortableness, the absence of rejection, the absence of resistance and clinging. And that goes unseen because of the strong fragrance and strong presence of this active peace or unconditional love or compassion. It's like when we enter a room and there is, let's say, a chair there, just an empty chair. And then someone might ask me, oh, Gurleen, go to that room, tell me what there is. And I go in the room and I'm like, oh, there's no one there. And then I'm told to enter that room at a different point and the chair is taken away. And then I may enter that room and someone asks me, oh, now tell me what's there. And it's like, oh, there was a chair before and it's not there anymore. So when the chair was there, it was still seen to be empty because in my head or in my idea, there was no one there. There was no person there. So, oh, it's an empty room. And there was no noticing that there was a presence of a chair until when I entered the room and the chair was taken away. And I was like, oh, actually, there was a chair before and now the chair is absent. So now the room is empty. So I don't know if that's a good analogy, but really, in the experience of our formless self, we fail to see that the suffering is absent because of the presence of this so fresh and so newly experience of what the pointings were telling us what love is and what wisdom is, what peace is. So we newly get to experience that in our experience, and then we totally forget to notice, oh, the suffering is absent. It's like it doesn't even dawn upon us until in our daily experience when that peace is absent. And finally, if life designs the experience in a way where we can understand that actually what I'm really looking for is not the peace, but the absence of this sense of lack or this need to look for something. And if that were to fall away, then it's like, oh, now this daily experience and the formless experience, what they have in common is the absence of the chair, or in this case, the absence of suffering. So what I was really looking for was not even this peace. It sure feels nice when it happens, but that's not where the end of suffering lies. I would love to get a hit here or there. I would love to sit in meditation and that peace to just wash all over me, but it's just a pleasure. It's not the peace of mind that is available in continuous and unbroken basis. It is just a plain, simple absence of the chair, absence of suffering.
Yeah, I was wondering, there's a question, because maybe this experience has a reason, or it can be useful even, this experience of bliss. So I was noticing that it happens usually after something is happening in the process. Maybe I'm seeing some types of suffering that are not very useful and they just gone away. And after that, this experience actually happens. So it could be useful as an indicator or a marker. Oh, process is happening, process is going on. So that is a part of the process. Something fell off and now you are under this hole. There is no this kind of experience and you feel lighter in a way. Something just opened up to this experience. So maybe we can just use it as a marker, not something to be expected and attached, but just, okay, this is a reminder. Hey, look, this is what is happening.
Yes, yes. It is definitely a useful experience when that happens. If that peace weren't experienced in the experience of experiencing oneself, it might actually be a scary revelation. It might be, and I as a seeker am so afraid of. So in the very opening up to oneself as this endless, boundaryless, formless self, the presence of this, the experience of this peace is really a perfume that attracts for the seeking to go deeper and deeper, as just another way of saying what you just said, and without giving into the fear that, oh shit, there's no ground to stand on here. And because it feels blissful, and because it matches somewhat the descriptions of the wisdom teachings that may have come before this experience happened, you're right, it acts as an indicator that, oh, this is what they're talking about, so it must be the direction to surrender into. So yes, it's definitely a wonderful, useful arising. And yet it is an arising, and the nature of every arising, as confirmed in this experiential recognition of ourself, that every arising arises, plays out, and falls away, and then morphs into something else as the arising. So if we were to cling to this arising as something that needs to be present on an unbroken basis, will bring more suffering than before, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ranko. Shiv.
Hi, Gulin. Nice
Hello,
satsang.
Shiv.
I kind of hesitate to ask you how you're doing after somebody else has asked you. It just feels redundant, kind of. I don't mean to be rude.
No, no. I am doing very well, Shiv. How are you?
Good.
Good, good.
I'm very grateful for Ranko's question and you clarifying that because these two frameworks, that like the framework that I've heard and the framework you use, they seem to be contradicting. And what you were talking about, what you were pointing to about just to stay with that sense of lack, like lack of clarity maybe, or, you know, and that perhaps is the practice you're saying. And so I'd like, you know, these sock puppets, these Muppets that we used to have on TV, like this analogy I've been using for a while. I don't know, it came up sometime that, you know, any spiritual teaching, if it's it seems impossible at the level of the Muppet, the sock puppet, but if that teaching, that instruction is not for that puppet, but it's for the hand inside the puppet to withdraw. And this I've seen in Eckhart Tolle's book also. I'm reading when you move from I am something to I am, and even you talk of the I am somewhere. I watched a few videos. So there does, and even that I am, like when you say there's no doer, and you also talk of an I am, you don't say that there's nothing. I am is there. So perhaps there is a doing which is possible, not as the puppet, but as me, the true me, which can withdraw from I am something to just I am. Would you say there is a doer to that, or is what you're saying is that there's no separate self as that sock puppet, but there is a self which can do a practice, which can withdraw and rest as the I am. Even Nisargadatta Maharaj, I've been told, says that I just stayed with the sense of I am. So this, there seems to be some practice, but not in the conventional sense. There's a withdrawing. And even in the last satsang, you were talking about how that unclenching stuff, it seemed to be similar to that. Can you just talk about this? And even you talked about it just now, that sense of bliss, peace, love, that can be something that the seeker can strive towards, and they can ultimately, you know, withdraw further and rest as I am. Maybe is something I want to ask you.
Thank you, Shiv. Well, first of all, yes, the analogy of the sock puppet is actually beautiful. I haven't read it so far, but it makes a lot of sense. So that's true. The teachings, the pointings are not talking to the sock muppet that seems to be sitting in the satsang, but it's talking to the hand that is the source of the sock muppet, really. Well, source of the movement of the sock muppet. And what that means in this case, that when it is, so this is because of language, because language is based on duality, subject, object, and an action between the subject and object. So that's why when teachings are communicated or transmitted with the use of language, it has to sound dualistic in a way that I, as the seeker or as the person or as the formless self, does something to get somewhere or for something to happen. However, if we were to really use language to maybe make it a little more clear, because language will never be able to express what goes on and how it goes on, because really nobody knows what goes on and how it goes on. The doing seems to happen. So exactly the same statement of Buddha, events happen, deeds are done, but there is no individual doer thereof. So what that means is that deeds are done. So the doing also happens without a doer. And the way the doing may happen is for a sense to arise where I want to meditate. There is a desire or an interest in, let's say, meditation in this case, where there is a natural movement, which may feel like that I'm charging towards going deeper. So there might be an arising of focus or concentration or effort even to just pierce through, let's say, frustration or sense of lack or whatever the content may be. So it feels like I'm doing it. And yet the doing itself and the I that feels that it's doing, they both are being done, are arisings within that which is already. So when we look at this from the top-down teachings or the wisdom teachings as the very impersonal sense of I am, which is not different than this formless emptiness that we were talking about as that label today. Within that, as that unveils itself to itself, it is very clearly perceived, very clearly seen that nothing is doing nothing. All there is this. And even this is not actively doing anything. It is within which all the doing is happening, including the doers, the idea of doers, the I and the other, the me and the other. Even the idea of God, if we say that God is the doer, even that idea itself is arising within that. So from the wisdom or the top-down teachings, it is very clear as it dawns upon itself that whatever is playing, that's why in Gita it's called Leela. So Leela is just going on. There is no Leela maker. And that's why they say that God in this sense is that within which all of it is playing. So that, or God, is the director, is the choreographer, is the actor, is the killer and the killed, is the stage, is the audience, is the very curtain that veils the play and unveils. So all of that is God. So when that is really available experientially to confirm, there's no doer whatsoever. And the doing happens from the seeming entities or persons that we appear to be in this play. So the question is coming from Shiv and the seeming answer is coming from Gurleen. So Shiv is the doer of the question and Gurleen is the doer of the answer. And yet if that sense of doership within Gurleen or within Shiv were absent, well, not the sense of doership in the sense that I don't feel like I'm speaking, but sense of belief in the sense of doership, where the understanding has happened that I'm not the doer. So let's say if I give a completely wrong and ignorant answer right now, which may even do harm to you, there will be a sense of regret. If there is understanding in the system, there will be a sense of regret where, oh no, I regret that my answer delivered pain to you. But there won't be a sense of guilt or shame where I may curse myself that, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. Because there is an understanding that all of this is destiny unfolding. So it was my destiny to speak those words and your destiny to listen to those words, because in this moment, anything might have happened where you wouldn't have heard those words. You may zone out, or the internet may break out, or something may happen if it were your destiny to not take in those words. So the words were taken in, and they landed in a certain way where they caused harm, where the consequence was harm to you in the given moment. So that sense of shame and guilt won't arise. So when we talk about bottom-up teaching, so the absence of shame and guilt in this case is peace of mind in daily living. But that doesn't mean that when I see that harm was delivered to you, that I won't say, oh, Shiv, I'm so sorry, my words led to this. So the language may still sound like that. Oh, why are you saying sorry if you weren't the doer of it? But that is exactly how doing happens. The apology happens. And a forgiveness may happen or not happen, again, based on your destiny and based on my destiny. So this is the rules on which the play is based, without a doer. And yet seeming doers all everywhere. So a person of understanding, when we are talking about bottom-up teaching, as a person, if there is understanding, or if there is an absence of misunderstanding, to be more accurate, life still goes on the same. I may still make jokes. One may still relate to the relationships in their life in the same way, and yet within themselves there is no blame or resentment for the other for whatever is delivered from there. There is no shame and guilt from here, whatever is delivered from here, and there is no pride and arrogance also if something good is delivered from here, because there is the absence of the belief that, oh, I did good, look at me, or, oh, I did bad, I could have done better. I could have done better doesn't arise, because it is seen that it wasn't my doing. It was based on my genes and up-to-date conditioning in this moment, how God has made me in this moment. And it was their destiny, because sometimes two children, same house, same parents, same circumstance, let's say they were even twins. And if both of them do something where the parent ends up punishing them, one of them may hold on to that punishment in the form of resentment, and the other one may hold on to the same punishment as agent of motivation to do better next time. So were they the doers of how they registered the punishment? No, it was based on their genes and their up-to-date conditioning of how that chemical reaction happened and what that registration did further in their life. So all of that plays a role and then make me a certain way in this moment, and in each moment that keeps on updating itself, which we can say up-to-date conditioning. So even this conversation may land in a certain way where a change is seen, or it may land in a certain way where a negative change may be seen, or nothing may happen. And it may seem like if there were a positive change, and if you were to call me and say, oh, Gurleen, this happened and this happened, and thank you for your answer. And then there might be a sense of pride where, look at me, I'm so good at explaining things now that people are a positive change. Well, that is misunderstanding. That is suffering. That is pride. There might be a feeling of gratitude where there's a gratefulness towards whatever was transmitted was put to good use by life, and there is a sense of gratitude. But if there is pride, that's suffering. So from bottom-up teaching, it does look like there's a doer. I do feel like I'm doing it. And yet the belief that I can do something to change this, or you can do something to change this, or life needs to be pleasure, pleasure, pleasure for me to be okay or complete, is absent. So even if you were to give me a negative feedback right now, there would be pain. There would be an emotional pain of maybe, let's say, sadness, or maybe even a contemplation that, you know what, next time maybe I talk less, if the feedback were about that. However, there won't be a blame towards you, because it is the belief that you said this on purpose to make me feel hurt. All of that shenanigan is absent.
Can I just hop in a bit here? So I feel we're kind of at cross purposes, and I want to explain a bit from where I'm coming from. Like, I'm not sure. I think it's the bottom-up approach. The label you're using, I think that applies more to what I've been trying to do. And I'm not looking for an explanation of how these things happen, an explanation which factors in the idea of there not being a doer. It's more about, I see spiritual teachers, I see you have some knowledge, something different. I'm not able to meet it, and my attempt is to meet that. And the way I go about it is, I am something to I am to I. And this process of withdrawing, this seems to be the way. And I'm asking you for guidance on how to do that. And I've had some experiences doing that also. Like this chanting and all, it connects me to my some love, some peace, some joy in my heart. And I've been told that I can't go further from there. But if I stay there long enough, if it is up to God's will, up to his grace, then he might pull me further in. So all these frameworks, they contrast, but as you also say many times, none of these are the truth. They're just concepts. So I've been trying to do this, and then past few days I've been practicing that. I wanted to delve deeper, and just this idea of, do I exist, this being, trying to meet it through that question. I've been doing all of these things, and my question is whether is it in some way counterproductive, or is there something going wrong, or is it okay if I do this? Because I am starting from there. I am something, and I want to reach to this I am. And it's not so much about suffering also anymore. It's just that I've gotten a taste of this love, and I know there's something magical to it. There's some sacredness, holiness, sanctity to it. And there's an idea of adventure, and suffering is also welcome. It's an adventure, basically, something inner, something mysterious. And I want to see where that path leads. I'll stop here. I've said a lot.
No, it's beautiful. Yeah. I'm very happy to hear the experience that are opening up for you. And yes, nothing's wrong, I would say. So okay. If you're asking for my permission, that if it's okay to do what you're doing or continue doing what is going on, you don't need it, man. Because you wake up tomorrow and you will have no choice but to follow what your heart is calling you to do. So even if I say, you know what, Shiv, you're not allowed to inquire anymore, you may still find yourself doing it. Because if that's what the path is unfolding as right now, you don't need anyone to tell you to go towards it or to go against it. So just keep being authentic to your own calling. And yes, it's a wonderful imploration of opening up to a glimpse of ourselves, and then that glimpse somehow attracting us so deeply that nothing else matters but to be with that. Because nothing has ever felt so true in the best of pleasures and in the worst of pains. But this glimpse in itself is already the fruit of itself. So it's almost like that the seeking itself is the fruit of itself. And go for it, man. And I would love to hear the adventures that you discover within yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
There is this unconditional joy or peace to be experienced as a recognition of ourself happens within ourselves. And there's this same quality of joy, the non-dual sense of joy or peace that is experienced in this very human-to-human connection. And yes, that formless awareness has to dawn upon itself to appreciate the joy of being human. And the joy of being human, not meaning that it's always joyful, but the joy of experiencing pain, the joy of experiencing suffering. And those words sound contradictory, but what magic? What is this that is capable of tears, heartfelt tears, and is capable of heartfelt laughter, is capable of feeling for someone else, is capable of feeling for oneself as a human being, and is capable of intimacy and capable of criticism and confrontation, empathy, the variety, the spectrum of experiencing that is available as this human being. What joy. That we're gifted to be here in this moment, to be together as each other, as one another, and as one, as the oneness at the same time in the timelessness. I love you all. Thank you so much for your time today. Until next Sunday, see you then.